You finally get the thing you wanted. The job offer. The relationship that actually feels good. The plan that's working. And then, without really deciding to, you do something to mess it up. You show up late. You pick a fight over nothing. You stop trying right when it starts to matter. Afterward, you sit there thinking, why did I do that? I wanted this. If you've ever sabotaged something good for no clear reason, you already know how confusing and how lonely that feeling is. Here's the part that might surprise you. You're not lazy and you're not broken. You're not even really bad at success, even though it might feel that way. What's actually happening is that some part of your brain decided, a long time ago, that this outcome was somehow dangerous. The good job, the healthy relationship, the win. And it's been quietly protecting you from it ever since. The frustrating thing is, that protection doesn't feel like protection. It feels like you ruining your own life. Psychologists have a name for this pattern: self-handicapping. It was first studied by researchers Edward Jones and Stephen Berglas in the late 1970s, and what they found was strange. People will sometimes create their own obstacles on purpose before a high-stakes moment. Not because they want to fail, but because failing on their own terms feels safer than trying fully and still falling short. There's also a deeper concept underneath all of this: psychological homeostasis. Your nervous system doesn't actually care if your life is good or bad. It cares if your life is familiar. And for a lot of people, success is unfamiliar territory. Unfamiliar reads as unsafe. So your brain pulls you back toward what it knows, even if what it knows is struggle. Let's break down what's actually driving this. The first layer is self-handicapping as armor. If you sabotage the outcome yourself, you get to control the story. I didn't get the promotion because I showed up late feels less threatening than I tried my absolute hardest and it still wasn't enough. One of those outcomes says something about your effort. The other one feels like it says something about your worth. So your brain quietly chooses the version that protects your identity, even if it costs you the result you actually wanted. It's not weakness. It's your mind picking the lesser of two pains, and picking it before you even notice the choice was made. The second layer is the fear of success. And it's far more common than people realize. If you succeed, the bar moves. People expect more from you. The pressure increases. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet thought shows up. What if I can't keep this up? Sabotaging before that pressure arrives can feel, on some unconscious level, like relief. You're not avoiding success because you don't want it. You're avoiding the exposure that might come after it. The fear that if people see how high you can go, they'll also see exactly how far you can fall. The third layer is identity protection. And this one runs deep. If you've spent years believing some version of, I always mess things up, or good things don't last for me, then actual success creates something called cognitive dissonance. A conflict between what's happening and what you believe is true about yourself. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The brain often resolves that conflict not by updating the belief, but by changing the outcome. It's easier, psychologically, to sabotage the success than to rebuild an entire identity around the idea that you might actually deserve good things. The fourth layer is repetition, specifically, what Freud originally called repetition compulsion. If your early environment was unpredictable, critical, or emotionally inconsistent, Your nervous system learned that pattern as normal. So as an adult, when things are calm and going well, it can actually feel wrong, like something's missing. Some people unconsciously recreate chaos not because they enjoy it, but because chaos is the emotional language they grew up fluent in. Calm can feel like the warning before something bad happens, simply because that's what calm used to mean. Now here's the honest part. Self-sabotage doesn't just cost you the outcome. It can quietly rewrite your story about yourself. Every time you sabotage and then think, "See, I knew I'd mess it up," you're not just experiencing a setback. You're collecting evidence for a belief that was never fully true to begin with. That's how the cycle becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not because the belief was accurate, but because the behavior it produced made it look accurate. And that's the part that keeps people stuck the longest. It's not that they fail. It's that the failure feels like proof. But here's the reframe, and it's an important one. The fact that you sabotage things means there's a part of you that's paying very close attention. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's running an outdated security system. One built to protect a much younger version of you from pain that doesn't exist in the same way anymore. The system worked. That's actually the problem. It worked so well that it never got the update saying the threat is gone. Recognizing the pattern, the way you're doing right now, is the first crack in that old programming. You can't out-effort an unconscious pattern, but you can start noticing it in real time. And the moment you notice it, you've already changed your relationship to it. You're not someone who destroys good things. You're someone who learned, a long time ago, that good things needed to be protected from. And now you're old enough to ask whether that's still true. The sabotage was never really about the job, or the relationship, or the win. It was about safety. And the version of you that's watching this right now, that's the version capable of telling the difference. If this explains something you felt for years but never had words for, you're not the only one. Hit subscribe. There's a lot more about how your mind works waiting to be explained.